right, good morning. This is falling around my neck. I don't know, does it still work down there? Okay, at least it's not breathing. Y'all can hear me from here, even though it's like weird. All right, we'll go with it. So, rise up is really the call. That's it. This morning, that is what I'm asking you to do. You know, I tell you a lot of times, I try my best not to be political. And I put some effort into that. Today, I can't help it. This is going to start political, and it's not in a sense of candidates or news or things, but it's just that the world has gone nuts. The world has gone crazy. Us, not the world, to change. He calls us to change the world around us. It's what we always talk about, what we always say. Lost people are going to do lost things. I'm not surprised that someone who doesn't know Jesus doesn't love Jesus. Well, duh. I'm not surprised that somebody who doesn't know Jesus lives in a way that doesn't glorify God or make things known or lift up things of God or this world. Focused on themselves. They're focused on the wisdom of the world, which is an oxymoron. They're focused on the wrong things. We can't blame them for that. What this morning is about is to you. Y'all thought my Mother's Day message might be a little bit challenging? Well, guys, today it's about you. Get ready. First, rise up. You can't be silent anymore. It's the world we live in. You can't be silent anymore. I think for a long time, us as Christians, we have just sat and watched the world around us, and we've had an attitude of, as long as it doesn't affect me or my home, I'm good. It's not what God called us to. It's not what God called us to be, because the problem is what starts outside of the home sneaks its way into your home because you never addressed it when you had a chance. And y'all, I'm telling you this morning, I am going to be political, not in any real sense of I'm not advocating presidential this, that, or the other, but we have to look at real world events to understand where we are in today's world, to see things that, y'all, I read this article and it kind of flabbergasted me. Now, for granted, this article is coming out of California, and we know California is not North Carolina. But everything starts in California. Everything starts there, makes its way into movies, makes its way into music, makes its way into entertainment, makes its way into social media, makes its way into your children, makes its way into your home. And if we don't rise up, then don't complain. Accept defeat, if that's where you are. I refuse. I refuse. And I'm calling you to stand up with me against the things of Satan because he wants to destroy. So this morning, we have a call to faith. And guys, I am specifically speaking to you, but ladies, this applies to you as well. But guys, you are responsible for your home. You are responsible for your household. You are responsible for every dumb thing that happens in your home. It is your fault. That's a big responsibility. Well, they don't listen to me. My dog doesn't do a thing I tell it to. my family, I'm not saying I'm giving examples, but I tell my dog to do what I want it to do, and it just ignores me. Be a man and fix it. That's where we are today. Because if you don't rise up to the occasion and you continue to let things run you over, you're about to see our future. And it's scary. It's terrifying. God created the family in the beginning. We accept that, right? We understand the family belongs to God. And God put men to be the protector, the provider, and the one to take care of it. Since the beginning of time, the enemy, Satan, has tried to destroy the family. Ever since the beginning, he doesn't like the family or the family unit. He's after your family, y'all. We talked about this a little bit in the men's group, and they didn't know the movie I'm talking about, so I'm not going to try to reference again. I felt really dumb I understood. But I wish we had magical sunglasses that we could put on and see the spiritual battle happening around us. I think Christians would be amazed the fact that demons and angels are fighting over yourself, your family, your home, this church, everything around you. They are fighting for control. And we get to be a part of that battle too, in the name of Christ, in the armor of God. But Satan is after you. He's after your family. And we'll see why. Why does he want to separate the family? That's kind of small. Let's make it bigger. One, these are up here on the table, by the way, if you want to take a copy of this home with you. 1 out of 3 families live in a home without a biological father. 1 in 3. That's pretty high, especially when you consider what that means. 90% of homeless and runaway children are from fatherless homes. 85% of all youths in prison are from fatherless homes. 71% of all high school dropouts are from fatherless homes. 120% of the children are at greater risk to become a subject to child abuse if they do not have a father in the home. 85% of children with disorders do not have fathers in the home. 63% of youth suicides come from fatherless homes. You are 7 times more likely to be a pregnant teen if your father is not in the home. Y'all, these are statistics. This isn't some made-up Christian mumbo-jumbo to make the Bible sound good. This is saying that without a father in the home, your child is at great risk. So is it a surprise that Satan wants to attack your family, specifically the dad? Father absence has shown increased rates of depression, increased rates of divorce, increased rates of substance abuse, lower rates of educational performance, lowered life expectancy, lower average income, lower job security, and lower levels of health, just because of in the home. Dads, despite what society says, you're important. You're important. You know, it's funny. I used to laugh at my parents because we'd watch a cartoon or something, and you know, it was right. He couldn't do anything without anybody and anything else. Mom wasn't there, Dad wouldn't be able to tie his shoes. If Mom wasn't there, Dad doesn't know how to exist in this world. And it was a joke at the beginning, but it's become society's thought process of, I don't need a man. Men are dumb. They're useless. I've even heard it said before, men are good for breeding. That's it. Statistics disagree. Reality disagrees. Scripture disagrees. Dads, it's Father's Day, and maybe you're not a dad, but every man sitting here in this building has an opportunity to raise a youth up in their life, to be a mentor, to be a help, to be a love, to help combat the results of a fatherless home. Here we go, California. Y'all ready for this? A recently amended California bill would add affirming the sexual transition of a child to the state standard for parental responsibility and child welfare, making any parent who doesn't affirm transgenderism for their child guilty of abuse under California state law. Let that sink in. AB 957 passed California State Assembly on May 3rd, but a co-sponsor amended it after hours in California State Senate on June 6th. So there was originally a law that went through, and it was more about children who needed to get away from their parents because they were mad at them for transitioning. It gave them safe haven. That was the origin of this bill. However, once it got to the Senate, it was changed to where it was put under the California Family Health Act, California Family Code, to where it would criminalize and be considered abuse if the parents do not affirm sexuality of the children that they claim. Now, we're going to go through this language in a little bit and look at different things, but I won't keep reading. Assembly member Laura Wilson, D. Susan City, wrote the bill and introduced it on February 14th. State Senator Scott Weiner, Democrat San Francisco, co-sponsored it. Wilson's child identifies as transgender. Originally, it required courts, okay, I just said that, I'm going to skip down. Post-amendment, this bill would include a parent's affirmation of the child's gender identity as part of the health, safety, and welfare of the child, altering the definition and application of the entire California Family Code. California courts could be given complete authority under Section 3011 of California's Family Code to remove a child from his or her parent's home if parents disapprove of the LGBTQ plus ideology. By changing the definition of what constitutes the health, safety, and welfare of a child, schools, churches, hospitals, and other organizations interacting with children would be required to affirm gender transitions in minors by default or risk charges of child abuse. I told Sharon several years ago, 5-10 years I'll be in jail. This makes that possible. Imagine this, y'all, seriously. Maddie comes up to me, asks me a question. My response is, no, Madeline, you're a girl, silly. That simple statement. I'm a child abuser. That's it. That's what this says. Now, political is political, right? So every paper you read, every news station you watch, everything has an agenda, okay? So understand that when you look. So I wanted to find the flip side of this. So I went to the AP to see, their fact check, give them an opportunity to refute what this law is saying. They say that this law was misrepresented. Okay, that's a good start. Hopefully, it's not as bad as what I thought. I'm going to skip down to the third paragraph. Legal experts and the bill's primary sponsor say the legislation does not address custody issues or removing youths from their parents. Of course, the bill doesn't address it. You know why? Because the Family Act already does. Remember, this bill says it's abuse. There's already legislation that says if you abuse your child, what's going to happen? This bill did not have to define what would happen if you abuse your child. That's already written in law. This just ties it to that. All right, the legislation is intended, keyword, to help keep estranged young people housed, not remove children from parents. Here's a closer look at the facts. Washington State's lawmaker passed a bill that allows the state government to take children away from their parents who refuse to consent to child receiving gender-affirming care. That's the claim, the facts. The legislation, Senate Bill 5599, it got changed in the Senate, but still the AB, is designed to ensure, okay, so we have two words, intended and designed. Guess what that does not do? That does not refute the fact that it is possible to remove the child from the home. It says, well, that's not what it was meant for. It doesn't say that's not what's happening. To ensure shelter for teenagers who are seeking reproductive health services or gender-affirming care. Ensure is a very strong word. It's a word of force. How can I ensure your safety unless I take you into my custody? Look what's happening here, y'all. This isn't a movie. This isn't some augmented reality. This is our life, and I need to hurry. Reproductive health services or gender-affirming care, that's all we have to do. We have to affirm reproductive health services and gender-affirming care. I have no idea what that means, but I know it means everything. It's such a vague yet all-inclusive word. All my child has to do is say, I want to be this, and I have to say, okay. That's what this is saying. Now, people say, well, it won't be misused, it won't be abused, it won't be misused. That's a lie. We see it all the time. for example, not limited. Back to Scripture. God created family in the beginning, period. He gave us a way to look at it. We're going to look at how God defined family, what he says about family, what we need to understand about family. Scripture, Proverbs 22:6. Train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. What does it say? Parents, raise up your child in the way they should live, they should go. It doesn't just mean talking to them, barking orders. It means teaching them, showing them, living a life that they can follow you in learning and doing what God has called them to do. You being an example and showing your child how to live for God. That's what God says a parent is supposed to do. Parents, train your children. Next, Colossians 3:20. Children, obey your parents in all things, for this is well-pleasing to the Lord. Exodus 20:12. Honor your father and your mother, that your days may be long upon the land which your Lord your God is giving you. Children, here's a lesson. Listen and obey your parents. Not only listen, but live in a way that honors their name, that honors who they are, of what they've given you. The legacy you carry forward, which should be the legacy that God has planned for you and that family. Honor that legacy and listen. Honor with your life your parents and God's legacy. Next, Genesis 2:24. I know I'm going quick. Hang with me. Therefore a man shall leave his father and mother and be joined to his wife, and they shall become one flesh. Joshua 24:15. And if it seems evil to you to serve the Lord, choose for yourself this day whom you will serve, whether the gods which your fathers served that were on the other side of the river, or the gods of the Amorites, in which land you will dwell. But as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. Together, this means spouses, husbands, family together. Leave your mom and dad out of your marriage. You and your spouse are now one inseparable servanthood to God as he leads you. Love and depend on each other first, and raise your kids according to God. When married, leave home and take responsibility for your family. Scripture, guys. Don't look at me crazy. 1 Timothy 5:8. But if anyone does not provide for his own, and especially for those of his household, he has denied the faith and is worse than an unbeliever. Lesson: you should provide for your family through protection, food, and material provision, but also spiritual leadership, especially spiritual leadership and discipleship. If you don't, you have failed the design of God's family and have thrown your children to the world. To fail your family is worse than unbelief in God. Satan destroys your family by distracting you. Men, you especially. You see it in all of time. Satan is after you and your attention. How? Work, sports, relaxation, tiredness, hobbies, abortion, divorce, and I had to look this one up. LGBTQIA2S+. Stands for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer and/or questioning, intersex, asexual, two-spirit. That's a new one. I'm going to have to look that one up. And the countless affirmative ways in which people choose to self-identify. This is the definition according to Portland Art Museum. All of these things are Satan's plan to destroy the family. How? Work. Takes time from your family. Takes time from doing God's will. Y'all, our whole life, me and Sharon have been, just even before ministry, we've had to choose either work or follow God. Hey, here's a great job, and you only have to work Sundays and Wednesdays. No thanks. Hey, here's a job, you only have to miss church every other week. No thanks. I value my time with God, God's people, those around me. It's important enough. I know I need that to do what God has called me to do. I know I need God in my life in an amazing way, that I refuse to let something like money pull me away, because otherwise I will destroy my family in a different way. But we have money, yeehaw. It means nothing in the end. because Satan is after my kids. And if I don't do something about it, he's going to win. Dads, quit putting work first. Quit deciding to spend time away because it's easier than going home and dealing with what you have to deal with. Stop it. Be a man. Provide for your family. Sports takes time, takes focus. How many times have we missed things to watch sports, to play sports, to coach sports, to be part of sports? Because sports are going to bring us to the top of absolutely nothing. I love sports, guys. I've lived that life. I played a lot. I miss it. It was fun. But I miss it because I realize other things are more important, and I don't devote my life to it. Relaxation. Yeah, you can live a life to come home, sit in the recliner, pop it back. What legacy is that? Where are you leaving? Tiredness. I can't go to church because I'm tired. Okay. So there's no strength in the Lord? You know what you're doing? You're showing your kids that as long as there's another reason, God's really not that important. I'm tired and I don't even want to overcome in order to show God to my children that he's more important than me needing a nap, even though I can get a nap before, after, later. Y'all, this is our reality. We do this. Reflect in this in who you are and in yourself, and understand Satan is not resting. Satan is not relaxing. He's not distracted by sports and work. He is after you and your family, and the more you set to the side, the more you say, how about it? Go for it. It's all yours. Hobbies can very easily become idols. Abortion. We don't want to train the kids, just kill them. It's easier. That'd be another message for another day. Y'all, we live in a world where people have dehumanized unborn babies so much that they call it a body part, because that's the only way they can justify killing them. Think about it. If that's true, all of us were a body part at some point in our life. Congratulations. You used to be the same as a finger. That's dumb, isn't it? But that's what people depend on. That's what they say. Divorce, it hurts. It causes division. I've never sat in counsel with somebody who said, whew, I had a good time with that divorce. It just doesn't happen. And it's because it hurts. And we need to be willing to teach our kids it's not best. Here's how to avoid it. Here's how to let God show you something different. And then the LGBTQIA2S+. Wow. It's a perversion of God's design in every way. He wants to take the dad away. He wants to take the mom away. So what he does is says, what's a dad? What's a mom? Doesn't matter. We're all the same. We're all different. We're everything and we're nothing all at the same time. That's not God. God says you were created for a purpose. You are special. You are amazing. I have a plan for you. I have something to give you in this life to make you wonderful and experience miracles and to be what you can be. And this world is nothing but a lie. So what we've done is let's look at God's wisdom versus the world's. Parents, train your children as they should be raised. Here's what the world says. Don't indoctrinate your children. Let them decide for themselves. Y'all, this law is literally, let your child tell you what they are because they know best. No, they don't. They're children. Be a parent. Tell children, you're a child, sit down. It's okay. It's what you're called to do. It is your job. Raise your children. Train them in the way they should go. Honor with your life your parents and God's legacy for you in your parents' name. The world, your parents are old-fashioned, need to get with the times. When you're married, leave home and take responsibility for your family. That's a big one. It's hard. How often do we see mom comes and says, "Oh, sweetie, he doesn't deserve you. Come back home. We'll take care of you. Daddy will take care of you the rest of your life. Don't you worry." To fail your family is worse than unbelief in God. To not train your children, to not honor your parents, to not honor your spouse and become one together to raise your children, to not protect, provide, and be what your children need to be a godly person as they grow up is worse than being an unbeliever in God. The world says God doesn't exist. Do what you want. You see the contrast here. It's Father's Day. We're going to zoom. Y'all ready? Here's the main verse, and maybe I can stop after this. Nehemiah 4:14. And I looked. He looked around and he saw it. And arose, he stood up. He rose up and said to the nobles, to the leaders, and to the rest of the people, do not be afraid of them. Remember the Lord, great and awesome, and fight for your brethren, your sons, your daughters, your wives, and your house. Guys, silence is not acceptable anymore. It is not acceptable to allow things to happen and do nothing about it. I'm not calling you to go be stupid or do something radical, or I'm calling you to stand up and share the gospel and share truth, and don't back down for the name of peace, your job, whatever it is. Stand up for what God is teaching you and bringing to you, and rise up to the occasion. We're going to hurry through this. I'm shorting my lesson just for y'all. See, I love you so much. Fight for your brethren, your sons, your daughters, your wives, and your houses. If you don't rise up and fight, Satan wins. If you don't take responsibility, you're worse than an unbeliever. We're going to hurry. I do have one thing I want to put at the end for you. God will not tolerate your excuses or your silence. Matthew 10:32. Therefore, whoever confesses me before men, him I will also confess before my Father who is in heaven. But whoever denies me before men, him I will also deny before my Father who is in heaven. Don't think you get to just sit back, be silent, be a secret Christian, and God's going to reward you for it one day. As a matter of fact, if you don't stand up for Christ and you deny standing up, when he says to fight, this is a command. Stand up and fight. And you say, I'm going to be quiet. Why would he honor you in heaven? Ezekiel 3:18, when I say to the wicked, you shall surely die, and you give him no warning, nor speak to warn the wicked from his wicked way, to save his life, that same wicked man shall die in his iniquity, but his blood I require at your hand. What this is saying is, if you don't tell people what you're doing is wrong, it's a sin, and sinners go to hell, but Jesus Christ is here to save you. If you don't stand up and speak, their blood is on your hands. Every person you refuse to share the gospel to, this counts at your job. Every person that you keep silent and don't share the gospel to, their blood is on your hands, is what God says. This verse says continue on, but if you share it and they still deny God, it's on their hands. So your job is to share the gospel. Psalm 94:16, who will rise up for me against the evildoers? Y'all, God's not saying to be quiet, silent, and just love everybody. It's not love to watch them go to hell. Do you understand that, right? That's not love. Who will rise up against the evildoers? Who will stand up for me against the workers of iniquity? Nehemiah 4:14 we read, I looked, we're looking, we see it. Rise up. Say to the nobles, high standard, people rich, whoever, to the leaders, doesn't matter their position, and to the rest of people, just in case you didn't understand, it's to everybody. Don't be afraid, fight for your home. My calling this morning is to rise up. Men specifically, but everyone. Your kids are watching you. If you stay silent, they assume it's okay. And I'm not saying teach them to hate things. I'm not teaching them to go in and be like, oh, you're a horrible person. But teach them the difference in right and wrong that they don't understand because they don't know God. And since we know God, it's our job to love them and show them Christ so that they can understand like we understand. That's how you teach your children to share. Not because you go around to tell people they're wrong, but because you want them to understand who Jesus is just like we do. That's the message. Stand up. Rise up. Speak to warn the wicked. Confess me before men. Let's have a time of invitation. Where are you at?
Let him show you how you can lay this down.
Are you silent? Are you watching people go to hell and just don't care?
'Cause you're not
Do you not know Jesus? Are you struggling with the wisdom of this world and maybe you need to hear from God what's right? We can help you with that. Get on your knees today and say, God, show me what you want. Are you a good example for your children, or is your actions going to lead them away from God because through action you're telling them Jesus really isn't all that important? My work's more important, my relaxation is more important, my tiredness is more important, my life is more important than Jesus. You may say, oh, God's the best, but they're watching you and they know better. Men, rise up and be what God has called us to be. Women, this applies to you too. Miss Kay's going to play. We're going to take a few minutes. Deal with Jesus as you need to deal with Jesus. This is between you and him. In 3 minutes, I'll pray and dismiss. And forgive me for going over.